All right, Lou, do you remember how we met?
I do. It was at Workbench Con 2 years ago, which would have been what, 2019? Workbench Con 2019. It was the day before Workbench Con started, so I think it was that Wednesday before. We had all got together in Atlanta beforehand, day early, and we were all just gathered in. The bunch of us were all gathered in the hotel lobby there and milling about. And I think our buddy Bruce Ulrich was there, and a couple of other people were there. And I remember seeing you guys, and I was like, hey, I know you guys. You guys just rebranded, and it was y'all had rebranded, I think, a couple of months beforehand, back when y'all were still Whiteside. What
It was
was
white grain woodworking.
that's
It's
what
sort
it
of a
was?
tongue
Yeah,
twister.
yeah, and I remember seeing some of you guys' videos from way back in the day, and I was like, okay, I see what these guys are doing. I know what they're about. And then when I saw you guys at Workbench Con, I was like, oh yeah, I recognize you guys. And I just think we just kind of hit it off almost immediately, because I remember we all went to it was the two of us, and then Andy Klein and Bruce Ulrich and Jimmy DiResta, and a bunch of us all went out to um
Highland Woodworking.
Highland Woodworking. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And had that little outing and just hung out. And then that was it for the rest of Workbench Con. We were all just kind of hanging out and having a good time and stuff like that. So yeah, and then we just kind of been keeping in touch and stuff like that ever since. And it's been really cool.
Yeah. On that note, my first crystallized memory of you, Lou, was I don't remember what the context was. We'd been hanging out for a day or so, and then like you were going to go take a nap or do something else. And Jenny and I, so I got to give some context. Jenny and I, before this convention, we were not going to hand out our private cell phone numbers to anybody. I don't know why that was the hill we were going to die on, but we just were like, no, they can talk to us on Instagram. I don't want my phone constantly blowing up from people. Like, I don't know what I was fearing. But then like, it was just sort of funny. Like Big Lou, the first guy we met, and then you asked me to like, give me like, can I get your number and I'll text you like where you guys go for dinner or something like that. And I just remember like spilling the bean to like, yeah, here's my number. And I was just so upset with myself. I was like, dang it. I said I wasn't going to give my phone number out. And then
It's so hard to say no to Big Lou, though,
I know.
because he's so nice.
I know. And then now we're good friends and everything. Again, like, I don't know what I was afraid of, but it was just kind of funny that my one rule I broke. And that was the first memory I have of Big Lou. And now like we text like a couple times a week. It's just kind of funny how
That's really funny.
anyway.
And I just remember when we would like in the convention center, when everybody would get up and walk around, like they'd put up like snacks and orders or whatever and drinks. And we'd all go up and like grab some food, like mingle, walk around and, come back to maybe our same table or a different table. I remember every time I walked around, I was like, what table's Big Lou at? Because I want to go back to Lou's table. Like he's fun to talk to.
Well, it's funny. I had made a point that weekend to I always wanted to never have a meal with the same people, because I wanted to.
That's why you kept running away from us.
Yeah, and it wasn't anything personal at all. I loved hanging out with you guys, and I loved, because I always looked and there were you guys, that it was you guys and Caleb and Drew and Bruce and that it was that y'all's table, like, and like that was home base, and I always wanted to meet and mingle with as many people as I could that weekend and stuff. But yeah, and I mean, I'd look over and be like, oh, they're over there having a good time. Who else can I go mingle with? Because I wanted to diversify and meet as many people as I could, and as compact of a time, in as limited of a time as I could within the weekend and stuff. So I mean, that's how I was going back to even back to high school and stuff. It's like I didn't have like one clique when I was in high school. I mean, I was in the band, but that was my clique in high school. But I didn't have a clique that I belonged to. I was always just kind of, the jocks always like low, and then like all the nerds were like low, and all the everyone was always always welcomed me, but I never really belonged to part of one of their. I was just kind of mingled about throughout the all through high school and even through college and stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of part of my psyche, I guess. So
yeah, I wish we had a little bit more in that, because we sort of fell into that core group of people at Workbench Con. And we do this all the time too, but like you meet some people and it's like a safe place, and like I don't know, we have to actively work against that. It sounds like you're wired the opposite way.
I know. I wish I had some of that natural social butterfly in me.
I know.
Like, oh, I could use some more of that.
But anyway, yeah, so that was cool. I love asking our friends that question because, your first impression of somebody else, like it's usually totally different from your version of the story. So I love hearing the same version of the story, like two different ways.
Yeah,
So-
no, it is. And it's also cool to reminisce too, just kind of go back through memory lane. It's like, oh, how did we meet? It's like, I can, now that I can, picture it standing there in the lobby of the hotel and then going to Highland Ward working with you guys and stuff like that. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So we got the audience up to speed on how we know each other, but they don't know exactly who you are. So if you don't mind, introduce yourself, give us your whole life story.
My
Let us
whole
know
life story.
what brought you here
It was
right
a
now.
dark and stormy night back in 1977. No, I am born and raised here in Florida. I was born in Orlando and raised in Jacksonville. Lived in Florida my whole life. Never lived anywhere else. Lived in Jacksonville most of my whole life. I went to college in Orlando. I went to film school. My degree is in film and video production. I thought about moving to LA and pursuing a career in the film industry, and realized rather quickly towards the end of film school, before I actually moved out there, that working in the film industry, living in LA, was not something that appealed to me at that time. And it just was, I realized that I would be spending most of my job would be looking for a job most of the time. Because when you're in that industry, you're all freelance. Even when you're, even guys like Steven Spielberg is freelance. I mean, he's Steven Spielberg, but he's, he owns his own company, but he's only technically working when he's in production of a movie. Yeah. And that was not something that appealed to me at the time. Things are quite different now. But I wanted that steady paycheck, when I was in my mid-20s after graduating from college. And so I opted to stay in Orlando. And I worked on a couple of TV shows in Orlando. I worked on, you remember the show Trading Spaces?
Yep.
Yeah.
I worked on that show as a grip and as a PA. Worked on some commercials, worked on some stuff for Universal Studios, worked on some stuff for Disney. All just freelance stuff, trying to get my name out there. And then eventually, moved back to Jacksonville and started working as a video editor for a private investigation company. Ooh. Doing processing their video evidence, getting their video evidence ready for court. So all of the evidence, the surveillance footage that the investigators were shooting in the field, they would send it back to the office, and this was a national investigation company. So it's like investigators from all over the country, and this is all investigation on like insurance fraud and stuff like that. So it wasn't anything juicy, it wasn't like following cheating husbands or anything like that. But I mean, we did get some good stuff. It was like, people that had workman's comp claims, saying, "Oh, I can't go to work, my back hurts," and then we'd have footage of them climbing a ladder carrying plywood with one hand like a serving tray. So stuff like that. And that eventually led me into doing IT stuff. And eventually I just stopped, doing the video stuff and focused more on IT. And now I've been doing IT work for 20 years. So that's kind of my stuff. And I've been making stuff, in workshops and stuff in the background. And then eventually that led me to YouTube. And that's kind of where I'm at. I started my YouTube channel, I don't know, right before Workbench Con 2018 is when I launched my YouTube channel. Just kind of, in the background, just kind of here's a video, here's this, here's that, and stuff like that. Never really focusing on, just kind of every couple of months I put a new video out or whatever, and stuff like that. But I've always been, making stuff. I've always been DIY. I've always done stuff myself. And, my grandfather was a maker, means like if you've seen the video that I put up of me doing the overhaul of my workshop in his workbench.
Yeah.
That video, that project, redoing his workbench that took me months to go through everything that he had on his workbench. And people were like, "Oh, I bet you found some real gems." I'm like, "No, not really. It was all just junk."
You don't understand what a maker is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever work on that show Hoarders?
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, I mean, my grandfather died in 1998. So on top of that, he was sick for like 10 years before he died. So he wasn't in the shop. So for 30 years, my grandmother was just shoving stuff out there. So it wasn't an active workspace for a long, long time before I got out there. And it was just, yeah. So, but, so, I mean, I and my dad was a handyman for, a long time. So my mentality of a maker and how to think outside the box and be creative, I got from my grandfather. Okay. My knowledge of tools and how to use them, I got from my dad. And it's my mom's father, my grandfather, and my dad. So it's not my dad's father that was the maker. It was my mom's father is the maker, and my dad is the one that taught me how to use tools. So cool. I always like to make that distinction because people are like, "Oh, your dad and your grandfather's like, no, it's my grandfather on my mother's side, and my father taught me how to use the tools." So
you got it on both sides of the family. Very cool.
Yeah, kind of. But my dad was very much, it's like, I'm going to use these tools, I'm going to follow these directions, I'm going to do this, and this is how it's going to be done. And my grandfather was like, "Oh, we'll just throw it together and see what happens." That type of that type of a maker. So
yeah. So let everybody know, what's your YouTube channel? What is it that you have on that channel? And just pitch yourself.
My YouTube channel. I like to say that I'm a big fan of the TV show Good Eats. I love Alton Brown. Alton Brown once described the way that he built the show Good Eats as taking the show Mr. Wizard. I don't know if y'all remember the show Mr. Wizard or not. Y'all may be too young for Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, I think so.
Bill Nye, the science guy. Okay. Mr. Wizard was my generation's Bill Nye.
Got it.
Okay.
So Mr. Wizard, Julia Child, and Monty Python's Flying Circus is how Alton Brown built Good Eats.
Yeah.
I have modeled my YouTube channel after Nick Offerman, Alton Brown, and Monty Python's Flying Circus. So
I love it.
A little bit of woodworking from Nick Offerman and making how-to stuff, teaching you the why I'm doing what I'm doing based on Alton Brown. This is the science behind what I do. And of course, some sketch comedy and wackiness, because who doesn't love Monty Python? So, and that's my YouTube channel. That's kind of the way that I do it. There's a term that I heard years ago called infotainment, and entertaining informational entertainment, and that's what I try to present in my channel. So.
Well, we think you succeed. We're a fan.
Yes.
So,
thank you guys.
Anybody listening, go check out Big Lou's channel. It's fantastic.
Seriously, the videos are so fun to watch.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. People comment all the time, like, "Oh wow, you really know what you're doing," and I'm like, "Oh, I make it look like that, don't I?"
Through the power of video editing. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I guess the first question for a YouTuber, I guess, is, do you make videos for yourself or do you make videos for others?
Kind of both.
Okay.
The way that I see it is, I have gotten so much great information and entertainment from YouTube over the years that I feel that there's also something that I would want to share. It's like, I went to college because I feel that, number one, I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories. I love being entertained by stories. That I love movies. I love television. I love, going down rabbit holes of, binge watching, 7 seasons of Star Wars: The Clone Wars over the weekend. It's like, I just, that's just me. I'm a nerd. I love escaping from reality and stuff like that. But at the same time, I also love getting my hands dirty and making things and stuff like that. So I want to be able to encourage people to get out into their shop and do stuff. It doesn't even have to be their workshop. It's just the garage, just whatever it is they want to do to be able to make something, get out there and make it. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, none of the stuff on my channel is anything difficult. None of the stuff, well, okay, maybe the last video I did drilling a 4-inch hole through solid brick was difficult. I understand now why my grandfather never actually put a vent through the laundry room wall, but that's a whole different story. But I just want to encourage people that it's like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. It's not about what you make. It's about enjoying the fact that you're out there making stuff. And if you want to turn it into a business, then you can turn it into a business. If you want to just be out there to be a goofball in your workshop and have a fight with your brother, then you can do that too. It's just about having fun, making stuff. And at the end of the day, you get to, have this cool thing that you need, and so that's the reason that I do what I do, is because I was not able to go to Hollywood and, be the next Spielberg or whatever. And I knew that that was not going to be in the cards for me. And YouTube is a way that I can be able to tell the stories that I want to tell. I can, scratch that itch, if you will, as a storyteller and as an artist, and using the video medium. But it also allows me to get out there and play in the workshop too, and play with power tools and, make stuff that's cool. And, it's like I can make, toys for my nieces. And, it's like my brother-in-law was like, hey, I got these hockey sticks that I need to cut down, because he's a high school PE teacher, and he's got, he bought, hockey sticks that were way too long. And he goes, can you cut those down? I was like, yeah, bring them over. And I, chop those down for him and stuff like that. So it's, that's not going to be content, because it's, just, 4 seconds and you're done. But, so it's, and he goes, wow, that was quick. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't take long. So that type of a thing is just, I like being able to do stuff like that for people, and knowing how to do that, having that knowledge is very cool,
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool. It's great to know, like, my dad was that kind of person, just in our community, like the guy that like everybody went to, like, oh, I got a problem, or I need something cut down or change this way. And just, my dad is always, you sound very similar to my dad. And I mean that as a good thing. Like, it just, like, it's really cool to hear people take responsibility for that corner of their community. And it's just, I don't know. It's a really, really neat way to get to know a lot of people around you, and to branch out to other opportunities. And the social butterfly that you are, I'm sure that's, that you're not even conscious of the fact that that's going on. But yeah, I'm sure that you've met some pretty cool people and relate to people in a very special way.
Yeah.
Especially because you get to say, I made it with my hands, and that's something that's just totally different from anything else in this world. So.
Well, I also come from a really large family too. I mean, my mom is Arab, so we have a huge ethnic community that everyone's like, it's like, oh, hey, can you do this? It's like, oh, I got an uncle that does this. I've got a cousin that does that. It's like between everyone in the family, we, throughout Jacksonville, there's, everybody knows somebody that has some type of contact somewhere that has something. So everybody always needs something done. So there's never a shortage of people that need something done. So
nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I think that's a thorough introduction to Lou here. So
yes, that was perfect.
Yeah. So I guess there's nothing left to do except to jump into the title topic. So we'll play a little transition and we'll jump right in. All right, Lou. So you chose the title topic, quit being unhealthy and lazy.
Yes.
And you got a nice subtitle to go along with that. You want to fill us in on the subtitle and then just unpack what you mean by all that?
Well, quit being unhealthy and lazy. And the subtitle that I gave, I don't have it in front of me and I'm not remembering it exactly word for word. It was
losing weight and gaining a business.
Right. Losing weight and gaining a business. I have, I think I had mentioned earlier that I've been, working in IT for, 20 some years. And being a cog in the corporate machine is not something that someone with as creative as a mind as mine sits very well with for that long. It just, somebody that has such a creative mind and an outside the box thinking, trying to fit in that cog in that machine, just it doesn't work. And I've been, struggling a lot over the past several years with what does the rest of my life look like, and for a long time, I've been very unhappy, unhealthy, and just miserable as far as, what does a 65-year-old Lou look like? What does an 80-year-old Lou look like? Will there be an 80-year-old Lou if I kept going down the path that I was going down? Because at one point I was 465 pounds. That was before you met me. That was before, at my heaviest, I was 465 pounds. And I am, as of this morning, when I weighed in, I was 330 pounds. So when I started this journey, and I've been up and down with my weight pretty much my whole life. But this particular stretch, this journey started in March. When I finally made the decision that, you know what, it's time. Enough is enough. I'm done with, I want to be better. I want to quit being unhealthy and lazy, and I want to have my own business. I want to be my own boss. I want to grow my audience. I want to have what I see all these other people have. I want to have a future. I want to have security, my own security, not reliant on somebody else saying, you've done a good job, here's a nickel. I want to be able to say, I did this, I grew this, I earned this, that was me. I want to have that self-reliance on my own accomplishments. It's like, I don't know. I know y'all are real active on Instagram and you do the reels and stuff. That the reel that's been popular lately, the one that says, all I have to say is I made this, and it'll cut to, it's like,
yes,
that's the one. It's like, at the end of the day, I want to be able to look back and say, the one that says we're building an, like you're in y'all's intro to your videos, we're building an empire. Yes. Pickles. I'm sorry. Pickles. I never heard that until you just mentioned it in your last video, and now I can't unhear it.
Good.
So
that's great. Yeah. So let's back up and unpack a lot of that. You brought up a lot of really great things. So the first thing is you started asking yourself some very dangerous questions.
Very dangerous. Yeah.
What does I think you said, what does a 60-year-old Lou look like? Is there going to be an 85-year-old Lou down the line? Where did those thoughts come from? Was that in light of COVID? Was that just luck of the draw? Was it like, where did all that come from?
Okay. So I don't know how closely y'all been paying attention to some of the posts that I snuck into my Instagram over this past year, but my stepdad passed away this year. He had been struggling with cancer for a couple of years. And he passed away in July, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. He had been diagnosed back in 2018. Now, his journey with cancer is not a very typical one. He was 60 years old when he died. He was diagnosed. First of all, very, very long story. He is a 44-year-old recipient of a kidney transplant. That is almost Guinness World Record setting.
Wow.
He is number 3 for the longest living from a living donor. The only 2 that have lived longer than him, or the only 3 that have lived longer than him, were their donor was their identical twin.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So the struggle that he had was the fact that he had gotten cancer, and because he was a kidney transplant recipient, the medicine that would, or the treatment, the chemo treatment that would have cured his cancer would have destroyed his kidney. So the balancing act between how much can we treat the cancer versus saving the kidney is the struggle that they had over the past several years. And it was this big whole thing. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but suffice it to say, when earlier this year, when it was finally very clear that he was like, he reached that acceptance stage, when they talk about the stages of loss and stuff like that, when he was like, no, I'm done. I've made my peace. Let's just, I'm ready to move on to the next phase of existence. It was a wake-up call for me, being like, okay, well, if he's not going to be around, I sure as hell need to be, because my mom is definitely going to be needing me. My nieces are definitely going to need, somebody around. I mean, she's got her parents. I mean, my sister and brother-in-law are definitely going to be there, but I wanted to be there for them. I want to see them grow up. I want to be there when they, are older, when they have kids, and so that was definitely a wake-up call for me. The other big thing that was a wake-up call for me is I have an aunt who is very heavy set and is almost incapacitated because of it. She can't walk on her own. She's in a scooter all the time. And is almost 100% dependent on other people to basically exist. And I looked at that and was like, that's going to be me if I don't do something. And I didn't want to be that. And between those two things, it was like, okay, yeah, you like eating Chinese takeout and watching Star Wars, but you also aren't married, don't have any kids, don't have any prospects, don't have any desire to have any of those things. You ain't got nobody that's going to take care of your fat ass once you get to that point. Do something.
Wow.
And it was, it was a wake-up call. And that's when it was time to quit being unhealthy and lazy. And 9 months later, however many months later, what is it now? September 30th. That was that was February. Okay. So beginning of March is when I really started. So I've lost 100 pounds since the beginning of March.
Wow.
And I've started doing yoga and eating healthy and stuff like that. And I've been, I have, my range of motion is, huge and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's great.
That is so amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that it probably wasn't easy, but it's so powerful to hear stories of people who are willing to face the dark, what we call the darkness, like the questions that you don't want to answer, the questions you don't want to think about, but what's the alternative? Just stick your head back in the sand. And it's just, one of the things that I'm so motivated by is listening to people just like you that face the darkness and say, you know what, I can take responsibility for it. And
and choose the other side rather than doubling down on what they're already doing. Because there's so many people who are like, I hate this. I don't like this, about my situation, but I'm just going to double down on what I'm already doing.
Or they blame other people or they make excuses, but it sounds like, and I know it is because we've got you on the podcast and we're friends, but like, we know that you're the kind of person that's going to take responsibility for that. And the people around you are going to be better because of it. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think one of the categories of people that I have the most amount of respect for are the people that are disciplined enough to lose a massive amount of weight. And that's just, and I know that sentiment is shared across the board. I know it's probably not talked about often enough, but it requires such a level of discipline that I know that I wouldn't be able to have. And I guess I just want to ask you next, like, what's your procedure? What can I do to build that level of discipline in my life? What can I learn from you in that regard, as far as building discipline and staying committed to a goal?
Well, the two biggest things that have been the biggest help to me, quite honestly, is the fact that I'm single and don't have any kids, because I can go to the grocery store and I just buy for myself. I don't have to worry about, what does my significant other want? What does, so-and-so want? It's like, I look at my sister and my whole family struggles with the same struggles that I have, you know, and I look at my sister and her kids, you know, I don't know if y'all know anything or know people that have kids and stuff like that, but 3-year-olds and 6-year-olds are pretty picky when it comes to eating. And when she'll make, you know, dinner or snacks for the kids, it's like, oh, I'm not going to finish that. And rather than, you know, it's like throw it away, I was like, oh, I'll, you know, just munch. And then she'll sit down and have dinner, you know? So it's like before she even realizes it, she's eaten almost 2 meals. And it's something that my sister and I have talked about a lot as far as, you know, one of the things that she has to really, really be disciplined about is making sure that all of that, what she calls kid droppings, that she doesn't pick up on those snacks, you know, and stuff like that, that she's, you know, staying disciplined and only eating what she is. Fortunately, I don't have that problem. I can have my portion control and only eat. This is only what I'm going to eat for breakfast. This is only what I'm going to eat for lunch. This is only what I'm going to eat for dinner. And that's it. The other thing that I'm very, very lucky with is that I'm an incredible cook. I love to cook, but I'm also lazy. I will cook once and eat leftovers for 5 days. I have absolutely no problem eating the same thing for dinner for 6 nights in a row. I have no problem with that. I know there are a lot of people that are like, I don't know how you do that. I can't eat the same thing for more than 2 nights in a row. How do you do that? I'm like, it's easy. I would rather watch TV than do dishes. You know, it's like, I would rather cook once and make a mess, put it all in the dishwasher and portion it up into my Tupperwares and stack it all in the fridge. I have all my portions, all my, you know, weighed it all out by gram and stuff like that in the fridge, ready to go. That way 6 o'clock rolls around. What's for dinner? I take my Tupperware out, put it in the microwave. How do I do the dishes? I take it, rinse it, put it in the dishwasher. Done.
Okay. So it sounds like, I mean, yeah, we're already sort of implementing that with like, we do meal prep to save time because we're wasting a lot of time cooking. Again, we're and lazy.
Cleaning and
and we hate all those things. And like, okay, so it sounds like you're just dragging into consciousness or into the spotlight the problems that you have, and then hacking your own brain and putting your own other selfish motivations that are more powerful than your hunger in front of yourself. Okay.
And building on your strengths too. I mean, how cool is that? People will be like, oh, I want to make a change, but I'm not good enough. I'm so bad at this. And all these circumstances in my life are just inhibiting me from making a change. And you're like, well, there's stuff I'm not great at, but there's a bunch of stuff that I am good at.
Right.
So
well,
how am I going to build on
that's
that?
the growth mindset part of it that comes in. And it's like, well, obviously I can conquer this. What are the tools that I have at my disposal? And from there, you can sort of, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So,
well, I mean, and you guys have had my barbecue rub. I mean,
oh my gosh,
you know,
you want to talk about your barbecue rub? My mouth is watering right now. He just sent us more of it. It's so good. We got some in the Instant Pot right now as we speak.
Oh, nice.
We covered up, some pork with it.
We put that on lots of stuff. Yes.
But yeah, it's, well, that's crazy, man. Thanks for sharing that.
So between doing and really, honestly, it's 90% diet and 10% activity, 10% exercise and stuff like that. So, and because I've been able to lose the weight and be more active and stuff and exercise, I've been able to spend more time in the shop, which has been a lot of fun.
That's great.
Good.
Yeah. I had no idea that like we knew so little about food and nutrition and like how the body works and everything. Like I remember listening to a podcast not too long ago where they were talking about there's more neurons, brain cells. There's more neurons between your mouth and your other end than there are in a cat's entire brain. Because your digestive system knows what it is that you're eating, and it has
so much control.
Right. And like you think you're craving Taco Bell, but it's really your body just like screaming for sugar and carbs and everything else.
The number of times where you think you're hungry and you need water.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's amazing how many times people will be like, oh, I'm hungry. No, you're not. You're thirsty. I guarantee you, if you're like, people will say all the time, it's like, I have friends that are built like you are, Davis, that are, like tall and lean, that are on blood pressure medication. And they're like, Lou, I'll bet your blood pressure is like, no, it's not. It's like, how are you not diabetic? How are you not on blood pressure medication? It's like, because I drink a gallon of water a day. Yeah. It's like every time I go to the doctor and my doctor's like, I don't, you're 460 pounds and you're not diabetic. Okay, good for you. How? And I'm like, because I don't eat sugar.
Wow.
I don't eat junk food. I eat a lot of Chinese takeout. I eat a lot of barbecue, but I don't eat junk. I don't, and I'm lazy. Those were my biggest things. It's like, I don't eat, sugar and sweets. I don't drink soda. I don't drink, alcohol. I mean, I'll have a drink, it's like my buddies come over and we have, my buddies bring a 6-pack over. I'll have one, they'll have 5. It's like, I'd rather chew my calories, that's always been my thing. It's like, I don't like being drunk. It's like I drink to the point where I have a buzz and I'm like, okay, I'm done with that now. That's fun. Yeah. Can I think for myself again now, please? No, not yet. Okay. Ready to be thinking now. Not yet. Okay. Ready for it to be done. Not yet. Okay. When? Now? Okay, good. And then I'm like, we're good, So that's just always how I've been. And
well, that's crazy. When I learned that about the dehydrated thing, like you train your body to go to food when you're thirsty, and you don't like, you are hungry. You legit are hungry, but you need water. And the reason that hunger is the response is because you ignored your body when it said, hey, I'm thirsty. When you had a dry mouth, you said, I just need water. I'm fine. And then your body learned, hey, if I make my stomach growl, you give me food, which has water in it. So I get the water that I want. You don't actually need the calories. You might or may not need the sugar depending on your insulin levels, but what you really need is the water. So if you'll train yourself to just drink water when you're hungry, you will be hungry far, far less.
Yeah.
So it's really crazy. When I learned that, I was like, man, it was so much easier to just drink water, because you use that to your advantage. You say, okay, now when my stomach's growling, I'm not hungry, I'm thirsty. So you drink a whole water bottle, and
it's your first line of defense. Yeah.
And you talk all the time on your channel about, spending money because the rewards will come. People that are like, oh, I don't like the way water tastes. Like, well, spend money on a good water system for your house, and you will save the money on buying the soda.
Yeah.
Spend the money on good water system that tastes good, and you'll drink the water in your house. It's like, I have a water softening system in my house, and I have a reverse osmosis machine under my sink, and I fill up. I've got 4 of these, and I drink 3.5. Sometimes I'll get through all 4 of them in a day. Not always, depending on, how much I've had the day. My one vice is I still put sugar in my coffee every morning, just because I don't understand how people drink black coffee. I just don't get it. It's like, my dad has a quote when the first time he had coffee when he was a kid, he, drank it black when he was a little kid. And he goes, how could something that smells that good taste that bad?
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. No, I totally get what you're saying. I feel like that's what we kind of did with we switched over and started using Butcher Box for all of our meat and stuff, to get like some good quality stuff to motivate us to like make healthier meals. And now we do, because we're like, well, I'm spending the money on this, like these decent cuts of like chicken and pork and beef, and I don't want it to go to waste. So I'm going to make some really good meals with some vegetables and healthy fats and all that sort of stuff.
Use your 1 hour of consciousness and good decision-making abilities once a week when you do your meal prep. And then you don't have to think about it again, because then the lazy way is to just go to the fridge instead of going to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, cool. Let's get back on to the title topic, because we took a deep dive down a rabbit hole. I love it. I love these conversations. So quit being unhealthy and lazy. We didn't go too far off topic.
Not too far, but we did. We were...
So we've identified the problem as, a lot of times, unless you've got a better definition, like a lot of times we don't know what we're doing wrong. And when we do know what we're doing wrong, we just need to drag it into consciousness and then hack our own brains to try and solve the problem. Do you have any other systems, or do you have any other methods you use?
The biggest thing for me was always being cognizant of the fact that this is going to delve into a little bit of 12-step stuff. My family does have some has been in 12-step programs for most of my life, and the biggest part of 12-step programs, number one, is admitting there's a problem, and always being aware that when you think to yourself, well, McDonald's would be really good tonight. It's like, I love that. I love double cheeseburgers. It's like, no, I know what a double cheeseburger tastes like. I've been eating them my whole life. That's a problem. Admitting there's a problem and recognizing that in and of itself is a problem, and knowing that I'll never get to where I want to go by going backwards.
I think that's the key. That's the key is the pain of ignoring the problem has to be bigger than the pain of fixing the problem. And until somebody can get there, they're never going to make that decision for themselves.
Or it's going to be very difficult.
Right. Well, you've heard this saying, like, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink, until they have, unfortunately for most people, until they are forced to look at their future in a grim sort of setting. Or unfortunately they see, bad stuff happen in the family or those close to them, until they have some sort of jarring moment to force them to look at the rest of their lives in a very accountable way, they're just not going to. And so,
I'm a big fan of the phrase, it's impossible to go forward while you're in reverse.
Yeah.
And as long as you're in a reverse mentality where you're still wanting to, where you're still eating cheeseburgers, or you're still, going through the drive-through because it's easy or it tastes good, it's like, taste good shouldn't be a factor. I can make food that tastes good. I can make stuff that tastes good. That shouldn't be a factor. If the fact that, it's like, I don't know how to cook, learn how to cook. YouTube has, there's thousands of YouTube channels of people that know how to cook, that could teach you how to cook. There's 4 cable networks dedicated to nothing but this is how you cook. If you want to learn how to cook, you can learn how to cook,
Absolutely.
Ignorance is not an excuse.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Especially these days.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we've talked.
This has the entire database of all human knowledge in your pocket.
Yep.
Use it.
Yes.
Yes. Or use it to connect with someone who will help you use it. That too. So
yes. To Obi Davis, you listen.
No. But so we've covered a lot of really big topics. We really appreciate you sharing with us parts of your stories, and just you're awesome. I feel like this is the point in all of our friends' podcasts where I just start gushing and talking about how much I care about the other person and everything. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to try to land the plane. Where can we, let's say somebody's really connected with you. Let's say somebody's like really listening to this and thinking, wow, I really am at a crossroads in my life. I need to buck up and start taking things more seriously. What action steps do you have for them? What can they physically do today or tomorrow to help get on a journey that's going to help solve some of these issues?
For the weight loss stuff, number one, talk to your doctor. That's where I started. I was like, get a baseline of where am I? What is the best course do I need? How unhealthy am I? Because until you know how unhealthy you are, you won't know how far you need to go. Wow. And there may be things that are going on within your body that you need to address with medication. You may need to be on some type of heart high blood pressure medication. You may be pre-diabetic. You may need to be on some type of glucophage for, helping control your blood sugar and stuff like that. So absolutely, if it's something for a weight loss, something that you're concerned about, absolutely you need to talk to your doctor, number one. If you've talked to your doctor and he's just going to tell you the same thing that he's told you for years, start doing what he tells you, and, talk to a nutritionist. Maybe talk to that one cousin that loves to go running all the time, that you're sick of their posting on Facebook, their running plan that they do, because they post their app on their phone, posts their morning route that they run every morning that you've blocked them from posting because you're sick of seeing it. We all know who that is. We all have one.
Yeah.
Reach out to them. We all have people in our lives that are the health and nut friends that try to get us to go do stuff.
Yeah.
Ask them, what's a good thing that can help me do stuff? Honestly, for me, what I found that has been the biggest help for me is Ddp Yoga. Diamond Dallas Page is, for those that don't know who he is a wrestler who was big when I was, growing up. And he didn't start wrestling until he was older. And people said, Dallas, you're crazy. You were going to be crippled by the time you're 60. And sure enough, he was almost crippled by the time he was in his, late 40s. Because, taking all the bumps all the time, and he could hardly walk. So he started doing yoga. And he was like, this is not something that I'm a fan of. I want to do this for myself. So he started developing his own style of yoga and became a yoga master and started helping people that were like me and people that were had limited mobility, people that were like an army ranger who had fused vertebrae from taking so many jumps out of a plane that he couldn't walk. There's all kinds of stuff. You could go look up, DDP inspirational videos and stuff like that. But what he's developed is a plan for people that have limited mobility to do yoga, from yoga sitting in a chair to doing yoga standing next to a chair to doing yoga fully standing without doing anything. And it's a progression program to get you to do yoga on your own, to help with your range of motion and stuff like that. And if you follow what he does and work the plan, and he's got nutrition and eating stuff too. And I'm not doing any of his nutrition stuff because it's okay. It doesn't really work for me. What I've done for myself is really worked, but he has it there if you want to follow it. Now it's not free. It's about $100 for the year, but the app is unlimited use. You can use it whenever you want, but it's remarkable. And there's coaches and people on there that have had tremendous results, and I've had a lot of success with it. So those are the two biggest things that I would say if someone is really saying, yeah, it's time for me to do something. Number one, talk to your doctor. Number two, find someone that you trust to reach out to them and be like, hey, maybe I need a little bit of help. What do you recommend? And if that none of those really appeal to you, just do a Google search for, DDP Yoga and look at some of his videos on YouTube and see if maybe that appeals to you. So
I like that.
Cool.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I got one more question for you.
Sure.
Since March that you're down over 100 pounds and you're well on your way to continuing your success in your business and everything else. What are you excited about most? Do you look in the future? Do you have a clear vision of what 6-year-old Lou looks like? Let me know. Can you share that with us?
I can, for sure. My goal right now, my short-term goal right now is, like I said, I weighed in, I was 330 pounds today. My short-term goal is by the end of the year, I want to be under 300 pounds. That's the goal for now. I've got 30 pounds to go by the end of the year, and I'm on track to hit that, provided I don't completely blow it to hell eating this weekend because it's my birthday. But
happy birthday.
Thank you. So that's my goal. I have already started taking on some client work. I've done a couple of some stuff for some friends and family. I've done some furniture repair work for some people. I've got I'm going to be doing some closet build in for a friend of mine. Some stuff like that. Now that I've got some climate control in the workshop, because being a heavy guy, with some health concerns, there's no way that I could work year round in my shop without it being air conditioned. There's just no way. I just can't work out there, and when it's not cool out, I just can't. It just I die. It has to be, climate controlled. The heat just is too much. So now that there's climate control out there and stuff like that, I can actually start working on taking on more client work, and I'm going to be building a pavilion in the backyard to get my smoker out of the garage and actually into space in the backyard, so that I'll free up even more space in the shop, because that smoker takes up a huge footprint. Thing is massive. So
your business is growing. What else?
And that's right now growing the business to a point that I can quit my job.
Okay. Wow. You're being really dangerous. You're serious now.
Oh
wow.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm not going to be, I will share that I was on you guys' show, and I don't think my boss will watch it. He follows me on stuff, and he knows that I am not happy where I'm at. He knows that I eventually want to quit. I don't think he realizes how adamant I am and how unhappy I am. But yeah, no, my goal right now is to be to the point where I have enough client work coming in that I can leave the job by middle of next year.
Wow.
So that's the goal.
Very
is
cool.
to be able to sustain myself with client work and doing built in stuff like that while I continue to grow the YouTube channel. Eventually I want to be able to just do YouTube full time.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Got it.
And just to be able to build what I want to build and learn what I want to learn and do, make the content stuff that I want to do without having to worry about client stuff. I'll still do some client stuff, and I'll always have that to fall back on.
Yeah.
But
you definitely got the storytelling abilities to stay in YouTube. That's for sure.
And for sure, we'll definitely be watching, and hopefully the listeners will too.
Yes.
So please be sure to go check out Big Lou's YouTube channel. If anything he said today has hit you on a personal note, feel free to reach out to him. He's a friendly guy. You can find him on Instagram. You can talk to him a number of different ways. And we just want to make sure that Big Lou gets the credit he deserves. So thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your time with us.
This was fun, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.